are on a meeting or sales call, who is in charge of that meeting? Is it you or is it them? Pros know how to set the frame and make sure that they stay in charge the entire time. I'm going to teach you the 3 things that you can do on every sales call or meeting to set the frame and stay in charge. That way you can close more deals. When you're on a call or meeting, do you ever feel like it's going really well at first, but then all of a sudden it takes a turn and they're suddenly asking you all these questions? You feel a little uncomfortable. You're like, wait, I wasn't prepared to answer that. And then the whole meeting starts kind of going south. If you've ever had that experience, it's probably because you didn't know these 3 things that sales pros are using in order to set the frame. Now, what is a frame? It's just a fancy way of saying that you are in charge of the meeting. And here's the thing, only one person can be in charge of the meeting. So if it's not you, it's them. And we want it to be you. I remember I had a coaching client who was having trouble closing deals, and she sent me a video recording that she'd gotten with the permission of someone she was pitching to. And when I watched the recording, my heart just sank because within 2 minutes, they had framed the entire meeting. They were like, here's what we want to accomplish on this call. We have these questions for you. This is how much time we have. And she was kind of on the defensive the entire time. And then she didn't get the deal. So when you learn how to frame a meeting, that doesn't happen anymore. And we're going to go over the 3 things that you can do to make it easy for you to frame all of your meetings and close more deals. The first one is to have an opening that you use every single time. Maybe it's just as simple as, hi, this is Julia Pimsleur. How are you? I have 30 minutes for this call. Do you have 30 minutes too? Just making sure that you both have the same time frame because you might want to close this deal and you don't want to run out of time right as you're getting to the part where they're going to sign up with you or enroll or say yes or whatever it is in your business. So 1, set the time frame. And 2, you might want to tell them what you're going to do in the meeting. Like in my meetings, I like to divide it up into 3 parts where first we talk personal, then I ask them questions about the problems and the challenges they're facing in their business. And then at the end, I tell them about our programs and services, if they're even a fit. We only work with about 25% of the people who set up calls with us because we're very niche. So when I say all that up top, suddenly it's my meeting. I set the time frame, I set the agenda, and now I can kind of guide them through. If you don't have an exact phrase like that, then you're going to be winging it on every call. So I highly recommend you come up with your version of that and put it in your sales script. If you don't have a sales script yet, it's a great time to create one. Just open up a Google Doc and create what you usually say on your sales calls or meetings. If you need help with that, reach out to us. The second thing to get right in every sales call or meeting when you're doing the framing is really the result of the fact that things don't always go the way you want them to go. In an ideal world, after you set that frame, now it's your meeting, you're the conductor for these 30 minutes while you're on the call, taking them through all these steps. But in reality, that doesn't always happen. I work with almost all entrepreneurs. And when they set up calls with me, often about 10 minutes in, they'll start saying things like, okay, well, what's the pricing? Or how would it work if I brought in 2 colleagues with me? And I need to have phrases ready to get this meeting back on track and make sure I own the frame. And it can be as simple as saying something like, oh, we're absolutely going to get to that, Beth. At the end, I'll tell you all about the pricing and the different options. I have a few more questions to ask you so I can see if we're even a fit. And usually once you do that, people are like, oh, okay, well, let me get back to your process. But you have to have the confidence and the language ready so that you can do that when they try to take back the frame of the meeting. Remember, only one person owns that frame. So if you let them take it back, it's now theirs the rest of the meeting. So that's the second thing, know how to take back the frame. And the third thing is to use that framing to close more deals, because there's no point in knowing any of these tactics if they're not going to help you get to yes more often. So why does framing help you get to yes? When you set that frame up top at the meeting, the last thing you should say as part of the frame is, at the end, I'd be happy to share a bit about our products and services if these even seem like they're a fit for what you're trying to do. You can also say something like, and if we're not a fit, I know people I can refer you to so we can make sure that you get some help after this call. and then maybe say something like, how does that sound? And they'll say, it sounds great, let's go. So now they've kind of bought into your frame. And the reason this leads to tip number 3, which is to use the frame to close the deal. Because one of the hardest parts of any sales call or meeting is that transition from, we're talking about your problems, they're sharing all this stuff about what they need help with, you're bonding, everything's going great. And now you've got to switch into, okay, here's what I can do for you, and here's what it costs. That can often be very awkward, and it's a hard thing for people, especially when they're not trained in sales. So you can use the frame to make that transition. One, unconsciously, if they've heard at the beginning, at the end, I'm going to tell you about my products and services, they're actually waiting for that. So you can feel more comfortable transitioning into it when you get to that part of the meeting. It also means that you can refer back to it. Let's say you're deep in a conversation about what they need help with. Maybe they need a new website, or they're trying to improve their health, and you're ready to start talking about your products and services because you're watching the time, which hopefully you're doing on every sales call, and realize you just have 10 minutes left and you want to get to that part where you can get them to yes. So that's when you can gently refer back to the frame and say, oh, I just noticed we only have 10 minutes left. I want to make sure we have time for the part where I tell you about how we've helped people who have problems just like yours. I think I hear you that the main things you're struggling with are X, Y, and Z, right? You can sum up what they just said and then say, does that sound about right? They'll say yes, maybe add a couple things. And then you can say, great, would you like to hear about our products and services and how we've helped other people like you? Now, they will be way more receptive to that than if you hadn't set that frame. So this is really going to ease you into the last part of the meeting, the closing, which is the hardest part. And that's when you want to move zealously to the close. That is something I taught in another video. So look that up in my videos if you're not sure what that means. But that's where you really bring the energy, bring the excitement, and take them all the way down the line to the yes. Or if your goal is just to get a second meeting, if this is a multi-part sale, to get to where they're saying, yes, I want to bring you in and have you present to the head of the company. Or yes, we want a proposal and we want to review that with you on a subsequent call. So let's recap those 3 things you do to frame every single call or meeting so that you can close more deals. The first thing is to come up with your language that you can use every single time to frame the meeting. It could be as simple as, I have 30 minutes. Do you have 30 minutes too? Great. Here's what I like to do on these calls. And then add it into your script. The second thing is to have language at the ready for if they try to take back the frame. And this is where role play really comes in handy. If you can practice this with a mentor or a coach or in a sales program or someone who has taken a sales program, so that you can see what it feels like to kind of gently take that control back if they're trying to take it off into another direction. And the third thing is to make sure your frame has a point about getting to pitch your products and services, so that when you get to the end and you're all ready to pitch the products and services, that feels supernatural to the client and they're ready to hear what that pitch is and get to yes. I hope those were helpful. And if you want more tips like these, just keep coming back to check out these Scale with Julia's if you're on LinkedIn, or we post them on YouTube as well. You can find them in both places. And if you're looking for a little more help with your sales, we do have sales programs that we run both live with coaching from me and also kind of DIY. Our Sales Cure sales program is something you can take from home in 3 to 5 hours and learn all these great best practices for selling. I took multiple sales programs and really aggregated down into the essence of what you need to know to close more deals. It's what I've used to close 32 million in deals in products and services. And it's been so much fun to teach that to women in my live Sales Cure live program and also via the online program. So check those out at millionwomen.com. And if you'd like to set up a call with me, it's scalewithjulia.co. Thanks for joining me. I will see you back here soon. And in the meantime, stay brave and go big.